Some nights, the world feels a little too loud, even when the room is quiet. The day leaves its fingerprints behind your eyes, emails, traffic lights, unfinished thoughts softly blinking like tiny signals that refuse to turn off. And yet, if you listen closely, there is another kind of silence waiting underneath all of that. A silence that does not demand anything from you. A silence that simply holds you, the way a calm lake holds the moon. So, wherever you are tonight, allow yourself to arrive. Let your shoulders drop, as if they have been carrying a coat you can finally take off. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands rest. And if your eyelids feel heavy, that is perfectly fine. You do not have to fight that heaviness. You can let it be a gentle blanket, settling in, one quiet layer at a time. Now imagine a single point of light, not a harsh light, not a spotlight, more like a small lantern in a dark hallway, steady and patient. It could be the soft gleam of a diamond catching a bedside lamp, or it could be a memory of one glimmering for a second and then fading, like a firefly in summer. Diamonds are so familiar that we rarely pause to wonder what they truly are. We see them as symbols, celebration, devotion, commitment, milestones. But tonight, we will let the symbol rest for a while. Tonight, we will meet the diamond as something else, a traveler, a survivor, a witness, because a diamond is not only a decoration, it is a record of the Earth's deep interior, an object formed in places your feet will never touch, shaped by forces so slow and steady that they make our worries feel smaller, softer, and easier to set down. And there is something grounding about that thought. The idea that something so calm and bright was born in conditions so intense and yet emerged with such quiet beauty. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. And now, let me ask you something, softly, without pressure. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and felt at peace? If you can remember that moment, hold it lightly. If you cannot, that is okay too. Tonight can be a new one. In this story, we won't rush. We won't lecture. We will wander. We will move the way nighttime moves slowly, quietly, like a tide that never hurries, yet always arrives. And along the way, we'll find a soft discovery, a small truth that changes how we see something familiar without jolting us awake, the kind of discovery that feels like an exhale. So, picture the earth beneath you, not the surface, not the sidewalks and grass and city blocks. Picture the deeper world, the one that exists below all of it. A world without sunlight. A world where darkness is not frightening, just complete. Where time does not feel like a deadline. Where time feels like a wide river and nothing needs to swim fast. Far below the continents, rock behaves differently than we imagine. We think of stone as stiff and still, but deep down, under pressure, rock can flow slowly, yes, but truly flow, like warm wax moving in the gentlest possible motion. It is not dramatic. It is not violent in the way we picture danger. It is simply the earth doing what it has always done, reshaping itself in silence. And in that deep, quiet realm, carbon atoms drift. Carbon, the same element that can be soot on a candle, graphite in a pencil, the charcoal on a grill, the living structure of leaves. Carbon is ordinary in one sense, everywhere. But in another sense, carbon has a secret. It can become something astonishing if the conditions are right. Down there, the conditions are not right for comfort. They are right for transformation. Pressure presses from every direction. Heat rises like a distant, steady breath. And in certain pockets of the mantle deep enough, stable enough, patient enough, carbon begins to lock itself into a new arrangement. Not into soft sheets that slide, like graphite, but into a rigid, three-dimensional scaffold. Each atom holding hands with four others in a geometry so secure it feels like architecture. That scaffold is diamond. It does not form because the earth wants jewelry. It forms because under those pressures, diamond is the shape carbon prefers. The planet is not trying to impress anyone. It is simply following its own rules, quietly, without opinion. And this is where the story becomes strangely soothing. Because the diamond's beginning is not hurried. It is not a burst. It is not a countdown. It is a slow becoming. A diamond might grow in pulses as conditions shift. It might begin, pause, begin again. It might swallow tiny minerals as it expands, sealing them inside the way amber seals a leaf. These trapped guests, microscopic crystals, are not flaws in the sleepy sense. They are little messages. They are evidence that the diamond was formed in a real environment, surrounded by the deep chemistry of the earth. If you imagine those inclusions, imagine them like tiny snowflakes suspended in clear ice. A small speck of history held still. A pocket-sized museum, sealed for millions, sometimes billions of years. And all of that happens in darkness. No one sees it. No one applauds. No one calls it rare. It simply exists. Above, meanwhile, the surface changes again and again. Oceans open and close. Mountains rise and are worn down into new landscapes. Forests spread and vanish. Ice covers regions that will later become warm deserts. Life experiments, fails, tries again, and the diamond rests, deep below, holding its shape, holding its quiet. This is why diamonds carry an emotional weight that has nothing to do with romance, not the kind we sell in commercials. A different kind of romance. The romance of deep time. The romance of patience. They are not just rare, they are patient. And when you let that idea settle into you, it can feel like permission. If the planet can work slowly for millions of years, then perhaps you do not have to solve everything tonight. Perhaps your worry can be placed down, gently, like a coat on a chair. Perhaps your thoughts can stop sprinting. But there is another part of the story, a part that feels like a gentle turning of a page. Because diamonds do not remain hidden forever. Not all of them, anyway. Some of them are carried upward. The earth, most of the time, is slow. But sometimes, in rare moments, it moves quickly. Not with anger. More like a brief, sudden urgency, like a deep breath taken sharply and then released. In certain places, gas-rich magma forms deep below the crust. It is not the glowing river of lava we picture from movies. It is darker, thicker, charged with volatiles. And when it rises, it can rise fast, so fast, it behaves like a freight elevator. A sudden lift, racing upward through the Earth's layers, cracking and slicing through rock, carrying passengers. Those passengers can include diamonds. This speed matters, because diamonds are stable at depth, under pressure, but if they rise too slowly, the rules change. Carbon begins to prefer other forms. A diamond, given enough time in the wrong conditions, can transform. It can lose its identity, quietly, without drama. So when the Earth carries diamonds upward, it must do it quickly, fast enough to preserve them. And in that quickness, there is a strange softness, Because it is not a violent story we need to focus on. We do not have to imagine explosions. We can imagine the motion itself, a swift, smooth lift through darkness, an elevator door opening, and a hidden traveler stepping out into a new world. When the eruption ends, it leaves behind a vertical pathway, an unusual rock pipe, fragments of the deep, brought to the surface like souvenirs from an unreachable place. And then, time takes over again. Rain falls, wind moves, rivers begin their patient work. Stone erodes, grain by grain, as if the landscape is exhaling. Over centuries, those rivers can carry diamonds away from their birthplace. Not quickly, not dramatically, just steadily, the way water always finds its path. So a diamond might leave a deep pipe and end up somewhere quiet, in gravel, in sand, in the bend of a stream, in an ancient riverbed that no longer has water, but still remembers it. This is one of the gentlest parts of the diamond story. Because after the rare moment of quick ascent, it returns to stillness. It returns to waiting. Imagine a diamond lying in a riverbed, not sparkling like it does in a storefront, not clean, not cut, just a small, dull-looking pebble among other pebbles. It does not announce itself. It does not shimmer constantly. It simply rests, letting the water flow over it, letting silt settle, letting seasons pass. And if you can hold that image, this tiny traveler resting in the calm of a stream, notice what it does to your breathing. It slows you down. It makes the mind softer, because it is a story without urgency. The diamond does not need to be found tonight. It is not waiting for a human hand. It is simply being what it is. And yet, eventually, sometimes, a hand does notice. Not because the diamond demanded it, but because curiosity is part of being human. We are drawn to small mysteries. We like to pick up stones and turn them in our fingers. We like to wonder. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. Maybe it is a memory of a river, or the feeling of holding a smooth stone, or the first time you saw something glitter under light and realized it had been hidden until that exact angle. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. Now, as the story continues, we will move even deeper into the diamond's inner life. We will talk about how a diamond can carry a tiny time capsule inside, how it can hint at water hidden far beneath the surface, an underground ocean held in minerals. And we will arrive at a soft twist. That hardness is not the same as invincibility, that even the strongest things have their own quiet vulnerabilities. Not as a fear, but as a gentle truth. For now, let the image of the river stay with you. Let the water be slow. Let the night be wide. Let your thoughts settle like sediment, drifting down until they rest. And when you are ready, we will take the next step together, still quiet, still slow, still safe. If you are still here, still listening, I hope your breathing has softened a little. Not forced, not measured, just naturally slower, like a candle flame that has found a steady shape. Tonight, we are following a diamond, not as a possession, but as a quiet witness. A small point of light that began in darkness, traveled upward once, and then returned to stillness, resting in water-worn gravel. Now, let us imagine we step back in time, not by years or decades, but by the kind of time that feels like distance. The kind of time where mountains are young and oceans are rearranging their borders. Somewhere above a deep mantle pocket, the earth holds a secret pathway. It is not a tunnel you could crawl through. not a cave, not a hollow space. It is a weakness line, a place where pressure, gas, and chemistry gather, waiting for the right moment to rise. Most of the planet's movement is slow, but every so often, the Earth seems to do something quickly, as if it briefly remembers how to hurry, not with panic, more like a sudden, purposeful lift. In those rare moments, magma rich with gases forms at depth. It is dark and heavy and warm, like a thick, unseen current, and then it begins to rise. If you want a peaceful image, imagine an elevator in a quiet building at midnight. No voices in the hall, no footsteps, just the faint hum of cables and the smooth gliding motion between floors. That is how this upward movement can feel in our story. A freight elevator of stone, carrying passengers that were never meant to meet the surface. Tiny fragments of the mantle, odd minerals that do not normally live in daylight. And sometimes, a diamond, small and stubbornly intact, riding upward inside the moving rock. The speed is part of the tenderness here, because the diamond needs that speed to stay itself. At great depth, diamond is stable. But as pressure drops, the rules of carbon shift. The Earth is not sentimental about it. It does not say, stay a diamond. It simply follows physics. If the rise is slow, a diamond can begin to lose its identity, turning into something softer, something more common. So this elevator must be swift, not frantic, but fast enough. A quick passage through changing conditions, like crossing a bridge before the fog thickens. And then, eventually, the lift ends. The magma reaches the shallow crust. It tears open a pathway. It breaks into fragments. It cools. What remains is a strange vertical scar in the earth, later filled with rock that tells a deep story. And then, once again, the world returns to patience. Wind arrives. Rain arrives. Water, always water, returns to do its slow work. Over years that feel like long sighs, erosion begins. Rock that once stood proud begins to soften at the edges. Rivers carry sand away. Stones tumble and become smoother, rounder, quieter. And in this long, gentle reshaping, diamonds can travel. Not the polished diamonds of advertisements, but the raw stones, dull and unremarkable to the untrained eye, tucked among countless pieces of gravel. Imagine a river at night, not a dramatic river, a calm one. Moonlight lays a faint ribbon across the surface. The current moves slowly enough that you can see it, like a sheet of glass slipping forward. There is a hush in the air, broken only by the soft, repeating sound of water touching stones. On the riverbed, hidden beneath ripples, small things wait. Quartz, feldspar, fragments of older mountains, and somewhere among them, a diamond. It does not shine continuously. In darkness, it is simply present, but when moonlight strikes it at the right angle, it gives back a small, clean glimmer. Not loud, not demanding, just a tiny answer. You can think of that glimmer as a kind of conversation between light and time. A reminder that some things do not need to change quickly to be meaningful. If you have ever held a stone taken from water, you may remember its feeling. Cool at first. Then, as your skin warms it, the coolness seems to fade. But diamonds have a curious habit. They often feel especially cool to the touch, not because they are colder in some magical way, but because they conduct heat so efficiently. They pull warmth away from your fingers quickly, giving you that sudden, clean sensation of coolness. It is a small fact, simple and gentle, but it carries a quiet metaphor. A diamond does not cling to warmth. It does not hoard what your body gives it. It moves energy along. It passes it through. And perhaps that is one of the soft lessons of deep time. We do not have to hold every feeling tightly. We can let some of them pass. We can let the heat of the day move on. We can let the mind unclench. Now, as our diamond travels in river gravel, another kind of waiting happens. Not the waiting of the earth, but the waiting of chance. Because the diamond might lie in that stream bed for a very long time. Long enough for the river to change its course. Long enough for the climate to shift. Long enough for a forest to grow where water once flowed. It might wait until the river dries, leaving behind an ancient bed of stones, a quiet memory in the land. And still, the diamond stays. Small, silent, patient. This is one of the most soothing truths about the natural world. It does not rush to meet us. It does not schedule itself around our lives. It continues, slow and steady, even when we are asleep. If you let that thought settle, notice how it softens urgency. Your worries, tonight, do not have to be solved at the speed of anxiety. They can be held in a slower rhythm. They can be placed gently into a wider timeline, not to dismiss them, but to give them space to breathe. And somewhere in this wide timeline, a person arrives. Not a hero in a dramatic sense, just a human with curiosity. Someone walking near a river, or along a dry gravel bar, or through a field where ancient water once moved. Maybe they are tired. Maybe they are quiet. Maybe they are not even looking for anything. They simply bend, pick up a stone, and turn it in their hand. It is in moments like this that the world feels strangely intimate. The whole history of pressure and magma and rivers and time arriving on the palm of a hand. The stone looks ordinary, but something about it feels different, heavier than expected, clearer in certain angles, a small resistance to scratches, a faint flash when it catches light. And then comes the softest kind of discovery. Not a gasp, not a shock, just an oh. As if the earth has quietly placed a tiny lantern in someone's path. If tonight's story is bringing you a little calm, you can let your eyes close for a moment. You can imagine your own hand holding a smooth stone. You can imagine the coolness, the weight, the silence inside it. And you might ask yourself, gently, what is something in your life that has been quietly forming, even when you were not watching? What strength has been growing in the background, patient and unseen? You do not have to answer with words. Let it be a feeling. Let it be a soft warmth in the chest, or a loosened breath, or simply the permission to rest. Because in this story, the diamond is not only a thing, it is a reminder that deep work can happen without noise, that beauty can arrive without force, that time can be a friend, not only a thief. In the next part, we will move closer to the diamond's inner secrets. We will look at what it can trap inside tiny minerals that act like sealed letters from the mantle. We will let the idea of a hidden ocean beneath our feet drift into view. And we will visit a gentle phenomenon that feels like a bedtime breath, the afterglow, the way some diamonds can hold light for a moment and then release it slowly. For now, let the river return, let the moonlight soften, let the stones rest, and let your thoughts, if they are still moving, slow down until they are almost still. Just like that. If you're listening from a city tonight, you can still imagine this river, because a river is also a rhythm, repetition without pressure, movement that never hurries. Somewhere, even now, a river is doing what it does best. It is polishing the edges of stones. It is sorting gravel by weight and shape. It is carrying some pieces away and letting others settle. It is patient in a way we can borrow. And beneath that waterline, in a pocket where the current slows, the diamond waits. It does not think. It does not hope. It simply remains, untouched by schedules, untouched by the urgency that lives in human calendars. There is comfort in that, not because we want to be unfeeling stones, but because we sometimes forget that life can hold stillness too. We sometimes forget that resting is not falling behind. Resting is part of the cycle. It is the night half of the day, and it deserves its own gentleness. So if your mind is still making lists, you can let the lists float downstream. Not forever, just for tonight. If a thought returns, let it return softly, like a leaf turning in water, and then let it pass again. And if you want, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself. Just a small note, a single word, something like quiet, or safe, or breathing, not for anyone else. Just as a tiny lantern you place on the edge of your own night. Because here, no one rests alone. Even across different time zones and different rooms, we meet in the same soft darkness, listening to the same slow story, letting the same calm settle into our bodies. And as the river keeps moving, the world keeps turning, and the earth keeps its deep, patient work below. You do not need to hold everything up by yourself. For a little while, you can be carried. In the next chapter, we will open the diamond like a sealed room and look at what it quietly keeps inside. But for now, stay with the river, stay with the moonlight, stay with the feeling of time widening, as if the night has stretched its arms around you and whispered very gently, "You can rest now." Stay with me, softly, as we step from the river into a quieter room. Imagine a place where the lights are low and warm, where glass displays glow like small moons, and where everything feels slow on purpose. Maybe it is a museum after closing, when the hallways are empty and the air smells faintly of polished wood. Maybe it is a laboratory late at night, when only a single desk lamp is on and the rest of the building rests in darkness. Either way, the feeling is the same, a gentle hush, as if the world is holding its breath. A diamond sits in front of us, not on a ring, not on a velvet pedestal meant to sell desire, just a diamond as an object, a traveler brought into the calm of human curiosity. It is small enough to balance on the tip of a finger, and yet it carries a story that is larger than cities. If you want, let your breathing slow down again. Inhale as if you are smelling cool night air. Exhale as if you are setting something down. You do not have to think hard tonight. You only have to listen and let the images arrive. One of the quiet wonders of diamonds is that they can keep secrets. Not secrets in the dramatic sense, but in the gentle sense, like a letter tucked inside a book and forgotten for years. Because, as a diamond grows, it can trap tiny pieces of its surroundings. A grain of mineral, a sliver of crystal, a microscopic fragment of the deep earth that happened to be nearby at exactly the right moment. Those trapped pieces are called inclusions. The word sometimes sounds like a flaw, but in this story, they are more like postcards. They are the diamond's way of saying, "This is where I have been." And the most peaceful part is that the diamond does not do this intentionally. It simply grows, atom by atom, and occasionally, it seals something inside, the way winter ice seals a leaf. Now, picture a microscope, not the sharp, clinical kind you might imagine from school. Picture it as a quiet window, a little telescope pointed inward instead of outward. We lean close, and the diamond becomes a night sky of its own. Inside the clear body, tiny shapes float, small shadows, pale sparks, faint clouds. Some inclusions look like dust motes caught in still air. Some look like tiny crystals, angular and calm. Some are so small they only appear as a soft blur, like a distant star you cannot quite focus on. And each one is a message, not written in ink, but written in matter. For scientists, these messages are precious. They can tell us about the mantle, about pressure, temperature, chemistry, the quiet architecture of the planet's interior. But tonight, we will not let the science become a loud lecture. We will hold the facts the way we hold a warm mug, gently, for comfort, not for performance. Because what matters in a bedtime story is the feeling behind the knowledge. And the feeling here is simple. The earth keeps records, even in darkness. Even without witnesses, even when no one is watching, there is a particular kind of inclusion that feels especially dreamy. Sometimes, a diamond traps a mineral that contains a hint of water. Not water sloshing around like a pond. Not water that could spill, but water held in the structure of a crystal, locked in the way a melody can be held in a violin string. It is difficult to imagine because we grow up thinking of water as liquid. We think of oceans and rain and rivers. But deep inside the earth, water can be stored differently. It can hide inside minerals, woven into their atomic patterns, like a secret stitched into cloth. And when a diamond traps one of these minerals, it becomes a tiny vault, a sealed capsule that can survive the journey to the surface. This is where the story offers a soft discovery, the kind that makes you whisper, "Oh," and then relax even more, because it suggests that the earth may have more water than we see, not only on the surface, not only in seas and clouds, but also deep below, in rock that quietly holds it. Some researchers have studied minerals found inside diamonds and discovered evidence of water stored in the mantle. One famous example involves a mineral called ringwoodite, which can hold water within its structure. When ringwoodite was found as an inclusion inside a diamond, it was like receiving a note from far below, sealed and delivered by deep time. It did not shout. It simply hinted. It said, softly, "There is water down here too." If you let that thought settle, it can feel strangely comforting, as if the planet is not only stone and fire, but also a hidden softness. As if beneath the hard ground we walk on, there is a quiet reservoir of possibility, and it makes the diamond feel less like a trophy and more like a messenger. A small object that connects worlds, the deep mantle and the open air, the unseen interior and the familiar night. Now imagine the mantle itself, not as a place of chaos, but as a slow-moving sea of rock. A sea without waves, because it moves too slowly for waves. A sea where the current is measured in inches per year, where motion is gentle enough to feel like stillness. In that sea, minerals shift and settle, heat rises, pressure holds everything close, and water, in its hidden form, is carried along in crystal structures, patient and quiet. It is not dramatic. It is simply part of the Earth's long breath. The diamond is born in that breath. It grows like a slow crystal moon, expanding in darkness. And when it traps an inclusion, it is as if it captures a tiny piece of that breath and holds it for us to see. This is one reason diamonds can feel like time capsules. They are not only old, they are storied. They hold within them small artifacts of conditions that no human could survive. They contain evidence from a place where time behaves differently. a place where a million years can feel like a season. If your mind tends to race at night, this is a good moment to widen your inner timeline, to remember how large the world is, how old it is, how quietly it works. Let that wideness soften the edge of urgency. Let it remind you that not everything needs to be solved in a single evening. And if a worry comes back, some unfinished conversation, some bill, some uncertainty, try placing it beside the diamond. Not inside the diamond, of course, just beside it, in your imagination. Let the worry sit there like a pebble on a table, small, still, not in your chest, not in your throat, just resting. While you look at something older and calmer, there is another gentle truth hidden inside diamonds, and it is one of my favorites for bedtime. A diamond can hold light in a way that feels almost like breathing. You may have noticed this in certain stones, or in certain objects that glow after the lights go out. Some materials absorb energy and then release it slowly. In the world of minerals, this can appear as a faint afterglow, an exhale of light. Not bright, not flashy, but soft, like a firefly remembering the sun. Not every diamond does this, and not in the same way. But the idea is what matters tonight. That light can be borrowed and then returned, gradually, gently, without hurry. It is a beautiful metaphor for rest, because sleep is also a kind of borrowing. You borrow stillness from the night. You borrow quiet from the world. You absorb it into your body, and then you return in the morning a little more restored. And here is the soft twist that fits beside all of this. Hardness is not the same as invincibility. A diamond is famously hard, meaning it resists scratching. But that does not mean it cannot break. It has directions along which it can cleave cleanly if struck in the wrong way. This is not a scary fact tonight. It is a gentle one, because it reminds us that strength is specific, not absolute. Even the hardest things have their tender lines. Even the brightest objects can have quiet vulnerabilities, and somehow that makes the diamond feel more honest. Less like a symbol of perfection, more like a symbol of reality. Maybe you can feel that truth in your own life. You can be strong in many ways and still have tender places. You can carry responsibilities and still need rest. You can endure a great deal and still be moved by small kindness. If tonight's story is soothing you, you might leave a gentle comment for yourself, not a performance, just a small note, like, "I'm allowed to be soft," or "I can rest," or simply, "Here," because here, no one rests alone. Every listener is another quiet light in the dark, another presence in this soft circle of night. Now, as we prepare to continue, let the diamond return to your imagination. See it again, small and calm. Inside it, tiny inclusions float like distant stars. A mineral with hidden water, a sealed postcard from the mantle, a faint afterglow waiting in the dark. And as you listen, let your thoughts become like those inclusions. Small, still, suspended, not pulling you forward or backward, just resting in the clear space of the present. Outside that imagined room, the real night continues. A refrigerator hums, a distant car passes, maybe rain taps lightly. None of it needs your attention. You can let those sounds be part of the background, like gentle static around a song. If you are listening with headphones, let them feel like soft earmuffs, keeping you warm inside the story until your thoughts finally slow down. In the next part, we will step even farther into deep time. We will let the diamonds age, stretch the night wider, We will wander through oceans, opening and closing, mountains rising and vanishing, dinosaurs arriving and disappearing like a brief dream. And we will return, gently, to the simple comfort that the earth continues its slow work, even while you sleep. For now, let the room stay dim. Let the museum stay quiet. Let the diamond hold its letters, and let you, too, be held by the softness of the night, by the steadiness of deep time, by the gentle knowledge that you do not have to hurry. Just breathe, just listen, just drift. Let's widen the night again, gently. If you're listening in a room with a ceiling above you, imagine that ceiling dissolving, not in a frightening way, but in a soft, cinematic way, like mist thinning at dawn. Imagine the roof becoming sky. Imagine the sky becoming space. And imagine, below you, the earth becoming deeper, layer by layer, until it feels less like a solid object and more like a living, breathing world. A diamond helps us do that. It is small enough to hide in a pocket, yet old enough to make our worries feel quieter. Some diamonds began forming long before dinosaurs walked the land, before forests looked the way we know them, before the continents wore their current shapes. They were already becoming themselves while the surface rehearsed countless versions of life. Deep time is hard to picture because it has no familiar rhythm. Our minds like calendars, weeks and years. We like counting. We like milestones. But deep time does not count in the way we do. Deep time flows. Deep time stretches. Deep time is a wide, slow ocean that does not care about schedules. Tonight, we can let that ocean be a blanket. Imagine the earth millions of years ago. The air is different. The coastlines are different. The stars above are the same stars, but they look down on another arrangement of land and sea. Oceans open, oceans close. The planet shifts like a sleeper turning in bed, slow and inevitable. Mountains rise, not in a single dramatic motion, but in a patient lifting. A ridge becomes a range becomes a wall. Then wind and rain arrive, and the wall softens. Rivers carve lines into it. Ice scrapes it. Time sands the edges down until, eventually, those mountains become soil, and that soil becomes something else. Nothing stays forever, not even stone. Yet the diamond stays remarkably itself. This is the quiet comfort of it. The world can change around a diamond, and the diamond can still hold its shape. It is not clinging, it is not resisting out of fear. It is simply stable in its own way, in its own conditions, in its own geometry. If your mind feels restless tonight, imagine borrowing that stability. Not a rigid stability, just a gentle steadiness. The kind that says, I can remain, even while things change. Now picture the diamond's journey as a long night walk through Earth's memory. It begins in the mantle's darkness, where carbon arranges itself like a calm crystal scaffolding. It rides upward once, in the rare fast motion of rising magma. It rests in rivers, it waits in gravel, and then, in some quiet human moment, it is found. And now it sits with us, under lamplight, becoming a window. When light enters a diamond, it does not simply pass through like it does through ordinary glass. It bends, it turns, it ricochets. It travels a longer path than you expect, bouncing inside like a slow pinball of brightness. That inner travel is part of what makes a diamond feel like it contains its own small universe of light. But tonight, we won't talk about numbers or angles. We will talk about sensation, the sensation of light wandering inside something clear, taking its time, touching hidden surfaces and returning to your eyes as a gentle shimmer. That shimmer is not only sparkle, it is time made visible for a moment. It is the Earth's deep patience translated into a small, quiet glow. And this is where we can let the story slip into something more personal without becoming heavy, because deep time does something to the heart. It shrinks urgent feelings down to a manageable size. It does not erase your problems. It does not invalidate your stress. It simply gives you perspective, like stepping back from a painting so you can see the whole scene. If you have been carrying something lately, an obligation, a decision, a worry that repeats, imagine placing it on the timeline of deep time. Imagine setting it beside the rise and fall of mountains, beside oceans opening and closing, beside the long, slow forming of a diamond. Notice how your worry doesn't disappear, but it becomes less sharp, less loud. It becomes a single, small note in a much wider song. And maybe that allows your body to soften. You might feel your shoulders drop again. You might feel your breath slow. You might feel your thoughts become less urgent. Not because you forced them, but because the story has given them space to settle. Now let's return, briefly, to the diamonds inside the tiny inclusions we saw in the last chapter. Those inclusions are like sealed letters, yes, but they are also like anchors. They remind us that even in a world of enormous change, some things can hold a stable record. That can be a comfort, especially for people who have lived long enough to see many seasons of life. You learn, after a while, that change is constant. Jobs change, bodies change, relationships shift, cities transform. Even your own thoughts evolve, and yet something inside you remains, a core, a memory of who you are, a quiet witness. The diamond's witness is literal. Your witness is human, but the feeling is similar, a steady inner thread. This is the gentle discovery we can carry tonight. The things that last are often the things that do not announce themselves. They do not demand attention. They simply remain, quietly doing their work. Even sleep is like that. Sleep doesn't argue. It doesn't debate. It simply arrives when the body is ready, like fog settling over a field. If your sleep has been difficult lately, let tonight be a softer invitation, not a command, not pressure, just an invitation. And if you're still awake, still listening, I'll ask you again, very gently. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and felt at peace? If a memory comes, let it be small. A porch light, a cool breeze, a distant constellation, the feeling of being held by something larger than your schedule. If no memory comes, that is okay. The night sky is still there, waiting. It does not demand that you remember. It only offers itself. Now, imagine the diamond as a small star that fell into Earth long ago and decided to stay. Not literally, of course, but emotionally. A small star of carbon shaped by pressure into clarity. It is both ordinary, made of a common element, and extraordinary, shaped into rare geometry. That paradox is soothing, because it suggests that extraordinary things can grow from ordinary materials, given time and the right conditions. And perhaps that is true for you, too. Perhaps your calm is not something you must chase. Perhaps it can grow slowly from the ordinary ingredients of your life. Breath, darkness, warmth, quiet, patience. Let's linger in a few scenes of that widening, as if we are watching a slow montage. Picture an ancient shoreline, the kind that no longer exists. The sand is darker, the wind is warmer, and the moon pulls at the water with the same calm gravity it uses tonight. Waves arrive and retreat. They do not hurry. They do not worry. They simply move, again and again, polishing the world with repetition. Now picture the same place after an impossible span of time. The shoreline has shifted. The seabed has lifted. What was once a shallow bay is now a hillside. Deep time turns ocean into mountain, and mountain into sand, and sand back into ocean, over and over. The cycle is not cruel, it is simply vast, and beneath all those changing scenes, the diamond remains a quiet point in the dark, like a small seed of clarity. It doesn't need sunlight to be itself. It doesn't need applause. It is content to form slowly, to wait slowly, to travel slowly, and to be found slowly. If you want, let your next exhale be a little longer than your inhale. Not forced, just slightly extended, like a sigh you didn't know you were holding back. And then, let your breathing return to its natural pace, more settled, more quiet. Imagine the Earth's interior like a dim ocean, lit from within. Not a bright glow, only a faint warmth, like embers behind thick glass. Currents move through the mantle, the way warmth moves through tea, rising and falling in gentle loops. Continents drift atop that motion. They meet, they separate, they reshape coastlines. They are like sleepers turning without waking. And this brings us to a softer, human moment again. Imagine someone holding a diamond that was passed down, tucked inside a small box that smells faintly of cedar. Under a lamp, the stone flashes, then rests, then flashes again, only when the angle is right. Brilliance is not constant performance. Brilliance can be quiet. It can belong to stillness. If you've been feeling like you must always be on, let that rhythm give you permission to dim. You are allowed to be less bright tonight. You are allowed to be mostly shadow and breath and softness. Because sleep is not an achievement. It is a return. And in that return, the day releases you, little by little, until your mind becomes a room and your body remembers peace. In a way, deep time is the opposite of anxiety. Anxiety rushes, deep time widens. Anxiety narrows, deep time opens. Anxiety says, now, now, now. Deep time says, there is room. So let there be room tonight, room for your body to rest, room for your mind to loosen, room for the day to fall away in slow layers, room for tomorrow to wait. And as you rest in that room, remember something simple and kind. Even while you sleep, the earth continues its slow work. Rivers keep smoothing stones, mountains keep becoming soil. The mantle keeps moving like a slow ocean. The planet keeps breathing its deep heat into the dark. You do not have to supervise any of it. You can let go. In the next part, we will bring the diamond's afterglow closer, like a bedside light dimming on purpose. We will talk about how some stones can hold light and then release it slowly, and how that mirrors the way your nervous system can learn to release the day. We will end with a reflection that feels like a soft landing, gratitude without pressure, peace without performance. For now, let deep time be your blanket. Let the night be wide. Let the diamond be a small, steady witness. And let your breath find its own quiet rhythm, until the story begins to feel less like words and more like the gentle tide of sleep. Tonight, imagine the lights in your room becoming softer, not dim in a sad way, but dim in a kind way, like a bedtime lamp turned down to the lowest setting. The shadows lengthen, the edges blur, and everything feels less sharp. This is the hour when the world stops asking questions and begins offering answers that do not require words. Somewhere in that softness, we return to the diamond, not as an object of status, but as a small lesson in how light can move. Because there is a quiet phenomenon, a tender little surprise that feels made for sleep stories. Sometimes, after a diamond has been exposed to bright light, it can hold a trace of that light, and when the room goes dark, it releases the memory of brightness slowly, almost shyly, as if exhaling. Not every diamond does this, and not every afterglow is visible to the naked eye. But the idea itself is a gentle kind of magic, fully natural, fully real. Light can be held and then returned. If you picture it, picture a stone resting on dark velvet in a quiet room. The overhead lights switch off. For a moment, the room is almost completely black. And then, very faintly, the diamond offers a soft glow, like a last breath of sunlight. It does not flare, it does not shout, it simply lingers and then fades, as if the night is slowly pulling a curtain across it. There is something deeply comforting about that fade, because it mirrors what your body is trying to do tonight. You have been carrying the brightness of the day, screens, streetlights, conversations, worries, decisions. Even if the room is dark, the day's brightness can remain in the nervous system, like a stubborn afterimage, and sleep, in its own patient way, is the process of letting that afterimage dissolve. Not instantly, not by force, but gradually, softly, the way a glow disappears. So if you have been struggling to fall asleep, you are not broken, you are simply still releasing, still letting the brightness go. In the language of the body, this release looks like small shifts. The forehead softens, the tongue rests, the shoulders drop by a fraction, the breath becomes lower in the ribs, less high in the chest. The mind stops gripping the edges of thoughts and lets them float. If you want a gentle cue, you can try this with me without effort. Let your next inhale be quiet, and let your exhale be just a little longer, as if you are slowly fogging a window. Then return to normal breathing. No pressure, no counting, just a soft suggestion to the body. It is safe to dim. Now, let's step closer to the diamond's inner light again, in a cinematic way. When light enters a diamond, it bends and turns. It moves through a world of internal surfaces, as if walking through a hallway of mirrors. But unlike a hallway that feels endless and bright, this one feels cozy, private, contained. The light travels, touches, changes direction, and returns. And the result is not a single beam, but a scattered shimmer, like moonlight on water. In that shimmer, it is easy to forget what the diamond actually is. It is carbon, arranged. Nothing more, nothing less. Yet arranged so precisely that it becomes a new kind of relationship with light. This is the soft twist of the story, the one that expands your heart without waking you up. A diamond is not special because it is loud. A diamond is special because it is organized, because it is patient, because it is the result of conditions held steady for a long time. And that invites a gentle thought. You, too, are shaped by what you repeatedly experience. Not only the intense moments, but the steady ones. Not only the loud days, but the quiet habits. Not only the crises, but the small choices you make when nobody is watching. If you have lived long enough to carry a few scars, you know this already. Life does not form us in a single event. It forms us slowly, through repetition, through what we return to, through what we practice, through what we forgive, through what we let go of, through what we decide to keep. And perhaps that is why the diamond, in a bedtime story, feels less like luxury and more like reassurance. It reminds us that something beautiful can come from pressure, yes, but only when time is allowed to do its work. It reminds us that intensity alone is not enough. There must also be patience. There must also be stillness. In the deep earth, the diamond did not rush to become itself. It waited, atom by atom, for the structure to hold. It let the mantle's warmth stay constant. It let the pressure remain. It let the slow ocean of rock move around it. And in that quiet steadiness, it formed. If you think of your own life, you may notice the same truth. The parts of you that feel most solid were not built in a sprint. They were built in seasons. They were built in the long, ordinary days. They were built in the nights when you kept going, even gently. They were built in the mornings when you tried again. They were built in the moments when you chose kindness instead of sharpness, patience instead of panic. Now, let the diamond become a small companion beside you tonight. Not a demand, just a presence. A reminder that slow formation is still formation. A reminder that rest is not wasted time. Rest is part of how structure holds. There is another gentle truth we can hold here, too. Hardness is not the same as toughness. A diamond resists scratches better than almost anything, but it can still break along certain lines. This is not a weakness to judge. It is simply the nature of structure. Every strong thing has a direction in which it can be sensitive, and that, too, is strangely kind. Because you may be very strong in some areas of life and still tender in others. You may be excellent at carrying responsibilities and still feel fragile when it comes to loneliness. You may be capable in a crisis and still sensitive to small words. You may be resilient at work and still need softness at home. Tenderness does not cancel strength. It gives strength a human shape. So tonight, if you have been holding yourself to impossible standards, let the diamond's truth soften you. Even the hardest things have their quiet lines. Even the brightest things can be vulnerable in a particular way. And vulnerability is not failure. It is simply the place where care belongs. Now imagine the afterglow again, the faint light that lingers and then fades. Think of it as your day leaving, the last emails dissolving, the last conversations quieting, the last obligations stepping back. One by one, they dim, not because they are unimportant, but because they can wait. They can wait for morning. They can wait for a rested version of you. If you are listening from a busy place tonight, maybe a city where lights never fully turn off, imagine a different kind of darkness, not the absence of light, but the presence of calm. A darkness that is soft like velvet, a darkness that makes space for breathing. In that velvet darkness, your thoughts may still drift in. When they do, try meeting them the way you would meet a passing car on a distant road. You notice it. You let it pass. You do not chase it. You do not follow it into the night. If a thought repeats, you can whisper to it, silently, kindly, not now. Not because you are rejecting it, but because you are postponing it gently, like placing a letter on a table and saying, "I will read you tomorrow." And if tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. A memory of light on water, a memory of a museum, a memory of holding something small that carried meaning. Sometimes the simplest memories are the most healing, because they ask nothing from you except presence. Here, no one rests alone. Every listener is a quiet witness to every other listener's tiredness. And that shared tiredness, when held gently, becomes a kind of peace. Now, let's bring the story toward a soft expansion. like a horizon opening. Imagine the diamond's entire timeline again, as if you are watching it from far away. Dark mantle, slow formation, a rare fast ascent, the freight elevator of stone, river gravel, waiting, a human hand, curiosity, a lamp, and a shimmer, and then the afterglow, fading into night. In that wide view, you can feel the message beneath the facts. The planet is older than your anxiety. The Earth has held storms far greater than your stress. And yet, it continues, patient, steady, quietly working. That steadiness does not solve your problems, but it does offer support. It says, you are held by something larger. You do not have to grip so tightly tonight. Imagine, for a moment, that your mind is a small room with a window. Outside the window, the night is still moving. Distant traffic, a far-off siren, a neighbor's door, the soft click of cooling pipes. Inside the room, though, you are allowed to choose quiet. You can pull the curtain of attention halfway closed. You can let the world exist without stepping toward it. And you can turn your gaze inward, the way we looked into the diamond, to the small, steady place inside you that keeps breathing no matter what the day asked of you. That place has been with you through every season. It has watched you learn, lose, adapt, begin again. It has carried you more gently than you realize. Tonight, let it be enough to simply feel it, like a hand resting on your own heart, warm and quiet. So, as the afterglow fades, let your body fade with it. Let your muscles soften. Let your breathing become almost invisible. Let your thoughts become slower, like clouds losing their shape. And if this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself, a small kindness written into the night. Something like, I made it through today, or I can rest now, or simply, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys. And when you are ready, let the last light go. Let the room become quieter. Let the diamond become a small star resting in darkness. Let sleep, in its patient way, arrive, slowly, safely, without effort. The night has a way of making everything simpler, not because life becomes easy, but because darkness removes the urge to perform. In the dark, you do not have to look a certain way. You do not have to keep up. You do not have to prove anything to anyone. You only have to be here. So as we return for the final stretch of this journey, imagine the world around you softening even more. The edges blur. The sounds become distant. The air feels calmer, like the inside of a quiet cathedral long after the last footsteps have left. And in that calm, we bring the diamond with us, not in a pocket, not in a hand, but as a small idea that glows gently behind the eyes. A diamond is a piece of deep time. It is a quiet witness to the Earth's slow work. It formed where no light reaches, under pressures that reshape matter without haste. It rose upward in a rare, swift lift, like a freight elevator of stone, and then returned to waiting years, centuries, sometimes longer, resting in river gravel, unnoticed, unbothered. This is the part of the story that feels most healing for the kind of tiredness many adults carry. Because after enough years, you begin to understand that your life is not only made of peak moments, it is made of ordinary evenings. It is made of long stretches of effort, quiet endurance, steady care. It is made of times when nothing dramatic happens, and yet something inside you is still forming. Deep time teaches us that formation is often invisible. The diamond did not shine while it formed. It did not sparkle to announce its progress. It was simply becoming slowly, steadily, atom by atom, until one day it existed as itself. And perhaps, tonight, you can let that truth land in you like a soft blanket. Maybe there is something in you that has been quietly forming too. A calmer way of responding, a deeper patience, a clearer sense of what matters, a tenderness you did not have when you were younger, or even just the ability to keep going, gently, even when the day felt heavy. Not everything that matters is loud. Not everything that matters is obvious. Some of the most meaningful growth happens in silence. If you want a simple image, imagine a small seed under soil. No one sees it working. No one applauds it. Yet it opens, slowly, in the dark. And one day, it becomes a sprout. Not by force, but by time. The diamond is like that seed, in its own mineral way. A seed of clarity held under pressure until it becomes structure. And now, let's return to one of the softest truths we touched earlier. Hardness is not the same as invincibility. A diamond resists scratches, yes, it is famously hard, but it has lines where it can cleave. It can break in a precise way if struck along the right direction. That truth feels important tonight, not because we want to think about breaking, but because it reminds us of something kind about being human. You can be strong and still have tender places. You can carry responsibility and still need rest. You can be resilient and still want comfort. Strength is not the absence of sensitivity. Strength is the ability to keep living with sensitivity and still remain open. In a world that often rewards hardness, it can be healing to remember that even a diamond is not unbreakable in every sense. It is simply itself, strong in one way, delicate in another, honest in its nature. And you, too, are allowed to be honest in yours. Tonight, you do not need to be unbreakable. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be human, breathing, resting, letting the day go. Now, imagine the afterglow again, that faint light held for a moment and then released. Think of it as your nervous system doing the same thing, holding onto the day's brightness, screens, voices, decisions, and then slowly, gently, letting it fade. If you have been trying to force yourself to sleep, consider letting go of force. Sleep does not come when we chase it. Sleep comes when we soften. So soften, if you can, not all at once, just a little more than before. Let your shoulders sink deeper into whatever supports you. Let your hands rest without gripping. Let your breath become quieter. And if your mind brings up something from today, meet it with kindness. You do not have to solve it now. You can place it in a quiet corner of tomorrow. This is one of the simplest, most human lessons of deep time. There is room. There is room for your thoughts to pause, room for your worries to wait, room for your body to recover. The earth does not hurry through its work. It does not panic. It does not demand that everything be fixed instantly. It shifts slowly, reshaping itself in silence. And in that slow rhythm, it teaches us something we often forget. Life can be lived more gently. Now, bring the story to a small, quiet, closing scene. Imagine a dark room with a single display case. Inside the case is a diamond not cut for drama, not staged for desire, simply resting. A soft light above it makes it shimmer faintly. The room is silent enough that you can hear your own breath. You stand there, not as a shopper, but as a visitor, a witness meeting another witness. And in that moment, you realize the diamond has never been in a hurry. It has never needed to rush. It has survived the rise and fall of oceans. It has watched mountains appear and disappear. It has traveled from deep darkness to open air without changing its calm. It does not ask anything of you. It only offers a quiet reminder. The most enduring things often form in silence. And if the earth can create something beautiful through patience, then perhaps you can also be patient with yourself. Perhaps you can let your healing be slow. Perhaps you can let your rest be enough. Perhaps you can let tonight be a small step toward peace, rather than a test you must pass. If you're still awake, you might ask yourself softly, without judgment, what you want to release before sleep. A tension in the shoulders, a tightness behind the eyes, a worry you keep chewing on. You don't have to release it all, just one small thing. And if a calm feeling comes, even briefly, let it stay. If it fades, that is okay. Calm is like moonlight on water. It arrives, it changes, it returns. Now, a gentle invitation for community, as quietly as a whisper. Where are you listening from tonight? If you feel like sharing, leave a comment below. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. And if tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it too. A night sky, a river, a museum, a small object that carried meaning, a moment when you felt held by something larger than your schedule. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. Something small and kind, like you're placing a note beside your bed. I can rest. I did enough. Tomorrow can wait. And don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel for more peaceful nighttime journeys, more quiet science, deep time, gentle wonder, and soft places to land. Now, let the final image fade. The diamond's afterglow dims. The room becomes darker. Your breath becomes slower. The earth continues its deep, patient work beneath you, quietly, steadily, while you do the most human thing of all. You let go. Good night. Tonight, let's return to that calm, dim room again. Not because we need to repeat ourselves, but because repetition done gently can be a kind of lullaby. Imagine a museum at night, long after the last visitors have gone home. The doors are locked, the lights are lowered, the air is still, carrying the faint scent of dust and polished wood. Somewhere in the building, a quiet security system hums softly, like a distant ocean. In one gallery, a small display case waits under a gentle spotlight. Inside it, a diamond rests. Not large, not loudly brilliant, just present. And in the quiet of this empty museum, it feels less like a luxury object and more like a relic, a small piece of the earth, brought into human hands, placed here not for selling, but for remembering. Because that is what museums truly are. When you strip away crowds and gift shops, they are rooms where time gathers. A dinosaur bone, a clay pot, a faded map, a meteorite, a simple stone with a label that says it came from far below, from far back, and the diamond, among them, feels like something different, not because it is more valuable, but because it is a kind of bridge. A bridge between the world above and the world beneath. A bridge between the time we count and the time that cannot be counted. Tonight, as you listen, your mind may be walking through this museum without needing to stand up. You can move from display to display, the way thoughts move in the edge of sleep, slowly, softly, with no urgency. You pass a glass case, holding a slice of rock, layered like a cake. Each layer is a chapter. Ash from an old eruption, silt from a forgotten sea, sand from a vanished desert. You pass another case, showing a piece of amber with a tiny insect trapped inside, mid-flight, forever paused. And then you arrive again at the diamond. It sits there like a quiet dot of clarity. You might notice how still it is, how it doesn't seem to reach for attention, how it simply allows light to touch it, and then gives some of that light back. This is one of the reasons diamonds feel so different from other objects. They seem to have an inner world. When light enters, it doesn't leave quickly. It wanders, it turns, it ricochets gently inside, like a slow traveler exploring a hallway of mirrors. And when it returns in fragments, little sparks, little flashes, tiny answers, not constant, only when the angle is right. And that is a comforting rhythm for bedtime. Brightness does not have to be constant. You do not have to shine all the time. You can simply be present and let your light appear in small, natural moments. If you've spent years carrying responsibilities, you may understand this deeply. Adults often become tired not because they are weak, but because they have been bright for too long. Bright with attention, bright with problem solving, bright with caring for others, bright with trying. So tonight, in this quiet museum, let yourself dim. Let your nervous system step out of the spotlight. Let your thoughts stop performing. And if a worry comes, imagine placing it in a display case too, just for tonight. A small label beside it, to be handled tomorrow. Because you don't need to carry everything in your hands while you sleep. Now, let's take a slow walk deeper into what diamonds quietly reveal about the Earth. Not through complicated lectures, but through soft images that the mind can rest inside. A diamond forms deep enough that it belongs, in some ways, to the mantle. The mantle is not a place you can visit, but it is a place your life depends on. It is the slow engine of the planet, moving heat upward, cycling materials, shaping continents. It moves so slowly that it feels still. But it is alive with motion like the way a sleeping person breathes. Small rise, small fall, again and again. And within that slow breathing, diamonds begin. They are carbon arranged patiently, under pressure held steady, in darkness held constant. They do not rush. They do not compete. They simply form. This is what makes them such perfect companions for a sleep story. Their entire existence is a lesson in quiet formation. And sometimes, as we said before, they capture tiny inclusions, minerals sealed inside like letters. These inclusions can tell us about the mantle's chemistry, its water, its conditions. But tonight, instead of focusing on the scientific measurement, focus on the feeling. There are secrets beneath your feet that are not threatening, only vast. There are stories in the earth that are older than your worries. When you remember that, it becomes easier to let go. Now, in the museum, the diamond sits as if it has been waiting for you. Not personally, not romantically, but as a symbol of something steady that exists, whether you notice it or not. And this leads to a gentle reflection. If the Earth can work silently for millions of years, then your mind does not need to solve everything right now. If the planet can hold pressure without panic, then you can hold uncertainty without rushing. If a diamond can form in darkness, then you can heal in quiet. Healing does not always look like big breakthroughs. Sometimes it looks like a deeper breath, a softer jaw, a night of slightly better sleep, a moment of peace in the middle of a busy day, and that is enough. As you walk through the museum of your own life, there may be rooms you avoid, memories that feel too sharp, regrets that still sting. Tonight, you do not have to enter those rooms. Tonight, you can choose the rooms that feel safe, a room of deep time, a room of quiet light, a room where you can rest. And here is a small question to carry gently. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and felt at peace? If you can remember, let the memory be like a small exhibit in your inner museum, a label that says, "This is what calm feels like." If you cannot remember, let tonight be the beginning of a new exhibit, a new memory of softness. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. Even one sentence, even one word, not for performance, but for connection. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. And if this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. A small kindness, like placing a note beside your bed. I can rest now. Now, let the museum lights dim further. Let the diamond shimmer become softer. Let your breathing become quieter. In the next part, we'll step outside the museum and into a night landscape, a river under moonlight, a sky full of stars, and we'll let the diamond story blend into the rhythm of nature itself until the line between science and comfort disappears. For now, stay in the quiet gallery. Stay with the gentle light. Stay with the feeling that time is wide and you are safe inside it. Step out of the museum with me now, quietly, as if the doors open without a sound. Outside, the air is cool, the kind of cool that makes you feel present without waking you up. The city, if there is one, is far away in this imagination. Tonight, we choose a quieter landscape. Picture a river at night. Not a rushing river, not a roaring one. A river that moves like a slow ribbon, carrying reflections the way a lullaby carries notes. Along the banks, grasses lean slightly, and the leaves of nearby trees hold still, listening. Above, the sky is wide. Stars hang like scattered salt, and the moon rests among them, calm and unhurried. Somewhere near the water, you are sitting, maybe on a flat stone warmed by the day and now cooling into evening. Maybe on a small wooden dock with boards that creak only if you shift. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think. You can simply be here, breathing in the night. In your hand, imagine a small stone. It could be the diamond we have been following, or it could be any smooth pebble, cool and ordinary. Either way, the sensation is the same. Weight, texture, stillness. The hand that holds it is warm. The stone is cooler. Between those two temperatures, you can feel time passing in a gentle way. If it is a diamond, it looks nothing like the diamonds you see in bright stores. In the dark, it is mostly quiet. It doesn't sparkle constantly. It waits for a single angle of moonlight, and then, briefly, it answers. A tiny flash, a small return of light, then stillness again. That rhythm is important, because nature rarely shines without pause. Even stars blink in the atmosphere. Even waves catch light, only at certain moments. Brightness is not a demand. Brightness is a visitor. So let that idea soften you. You don't have to be bright all the time. You don't have to be productive in the dark. Night is allowed to be dim. You are allowed to be dim. Listen to the river for a moment. The sound is steady but not loud, like soft fabric moving. Water touches stone and then moves on. Water does not cling. It arrives. It passes. It returns again in a new form. This is one of the gentlest lessons on earth. If you have been clinging to something today, you can borrow the river's practice, not to abandon what matters, but to loosen your grip, to let your mind stop squeezing, to let your chest stop holding its breath, to let your thoughts move, like water, without getting stuck. Now, imagine the diamond's long journey blending into this river scene. Once, it was deep below, in a darkness so complete it feels like another universe. It formed slowly, atom by atom, in the quiet pressure of the mantle. Then, in a rare moment, it rose upward in the Earth's freight elevator of stone. Then it waited, again, in gravel and sand, rolled by water, softened by time. And now, here it is, near the surface, near your hand, near your breath. A traveler that crossed worlds, a witness that does not speak, and yet says so much. If you want a soft discovery tonight, let it be this. A diamond can carry hints of color, not as paint, but as tiny changes in its structure. A few different atoms in the lattice can shift how light moves through it. A small presence can change the entire feeling of the stone. A whisper of nitrogen may bring a warm tint. Other subtle traces can bend light toward blue or pink. The diamond remains diamond, yet it carries personality. This is a gentle science fact, but it also feels like a human truth. Small differences matter. Small influences shape us. A kind word, a patient teacher, a song heard at the right time, a friend who stayed. Tiny things can color an entire season of life. And if a difficult season colored you in ways you didn't choose, you can remember this too. Color can soften. Light can shift. Time can change the way the inside of you refracts the world. Hold the stone again in your imagination. Feel its coolness. Notice the way your palm warms around it. This exchange of heat is quiet, constant, and real. It is a conversation without words. Your body and the night meeting each other gently. Now lift your eyes to the sky. The stars look far, but their light is traveling to you. Some of it has been traveling longer than you have been alive. In a sense, you are receiving messages from the past every time you look up. Old light arriving in the present. Deep time touching your face. The diamond, in its own way, is also old light. Not light from space, but light shaped by Earth. A small crystal that teaches the eye how to see brightness in fragments. A small object that turns illumination into quiet patterns. Sometimes, in certain light, a diamond can respond in a way that feels like a secret smile. Under ultraviolet light, some diamonds glow with a soft blue. You don't need to remember the term for it. Just remember the feeling. The stone, quiet a moment ago, suddenly has a gentle voice of its own. Tonight, we don't need special lamps. We have moonlight, imagination, and the simple truth that many things in nature have hidden sides. A shell is plain until it is wet. A leaf is ordinary until the sun passes through it. A person is familiar until you hear their story. And a diamond is only a hard pebble until you realize what it has survived. Let the night become a slow montage. A continent drifting like a ship across the mantle. Mountains lifting, then softening back into soil. A river changing its path in a patience that outlasts generations. And through all those scenes, the diamond remains, a small constant, carried from one chapter to the next. Older than dinosaurs, it existed while the world rehearsed different versions of itself. That kind of age does not make the diamond superior. It makes it calm. It makes it a teacher of scale. And scale is what tired minds often need. When we are anxious, the world shrinks to a single problem. But when we remember river scale, mountain scale, star scale, our inner space expands. We breathe in a wider room. We loosen, So let the river be your scale tonight. It will keep moving after you fall asleep. Let the sky be your scale. The stars do not rush. They do not demand that you finish anything before dawn. They simply shine, then fade into morning, then return again. If you have been carrying quiet fatigue in the body, let this scene hold it gently. You don't have to fix it in the dark. You can place it beside the water, like a stone. You can let it rest. And maybe, in that resting, something small eases. Not a dramatic change, just a soft release. The way a clenched hand loosens when it remembers it is safe. In the hush, you might feel gratitude arrive without effort, not forced positivity, just a quiet appreciation for simple things. A cool night, a steady breath, a story that keeps you company. If gratitude comes, let it come. If it doesn't, that is okay too. Even the river does not force the moon to appear. It only reflects whatever is there. Somewhere else tonight, another listener is also near a window or under a blanket, letting the same images pass through them. Different lives, same night. And for a moment, that shared quiet can feel like warmth. If you let your mind drift, you might imagine the diamond as a tiny star that chose to live underground for a while. Not literally, but poetically. A star of carbon, held in darkness, learning patience, then returned to the surface to meet moonlight, river water, and human hands. There is something soothing about connecting the sky and the ground like this, because it reminds us that you belong to both. You are made of earth, and you look toward the stars. You carry daily worries, but you also carry the ability to feel awe. And awe, when it is gentle, can loosen anxiety. It can widen the inner room. It can make the heart breathe. If you are listening after a long day, you may feel a quiet tiredness behind your eyes. That tiredness is not your enemy. It is your body asking for release. So let the river help. Let the sky help. Let this story be a soft hand on your shoulder. Here is a small invitation. As you exhale, imagine placing the day on the river, not throwing it, not rejecting it, just setting it down like a leaf. Watch the leaf drift. It does not need your supervision. It moves on its own. And the river keeps moving, steady, kind, indifferent, in the best way. Now, imagine the diamond resting beside you on a stone. Moonlight touches it. For a moment it glows, then it does not. This is the pace of the night. Brief shimmer, long calm. Brief thought, long silence. Brief memory, long rest. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. Maybe it is a memory of water at night. Maybe it is a memory of a quiet sky. Maybe it is simply the memory of being held by stillness for a moment. Here, no one rests alone. Every listener is another gentle presence on the riverbank. Different lives, same darkness, same breath. And if this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself, not to impress anyone, just a small lantern you place in your own night. Now, let the scene soften towards sleep. The river's sound becomes more distant. The stars blur slightly, as if your eyes are growing heavy. The stone in your hand becomes warmer, closer to your body's temperature. The diamond's journey becomes less like a story and more like a feeling. Patience, quiet, endurance. In the next part, we will follow that feeling into the deepest calm of all. We will let the story become almost like a dream, where time is wide and gentle, and you do not need to hold any sharp edges. For now, stay by the river, stay under the moon, Stay with the small traveling star in your hand, and let your breath, little by little, become the only thing you notice. Tonight, the story can become even simpler. Not empty, not vague, just simple, in the way a clear night can be simple. A few stars, a slow breath, and the feeling that everything is allowed to be as it is. Imagine you are still near the river, but now the scene widens. The camera in your mind pulls back, gently, without a jolt. The river becomes a silver thread. The trees become quiet shapes. The town lights, if there are any, become a faint glow on the horizon. And above it all, the sky opens like a vast, dark ocean. Somewhere in that widening, you can feel what deep time does best. It loosens the tight knot of the present. It reminds you that your life is held inside a larger story, and that the larger story is not rushing you. If you have ever stood beneath a starry sky and felt your chest soften, you already know this. The mind stops arguing for a moment. The body remembers its natural pace. The nervous system, so used to alertness, realizes it can rest. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and felt at peace? If a moment comes to you, let it be small. A single star between clouds, a quiet drive home, a porch step, a cool breeze on your face. If nothing comes, that is okay. Tonight can be a first step back to that feeling. Now, in the quiet, we return one last time to the diamond, not to analyze it, but to let it become a soft symbol of what the earth offers. A diamond is carbon, arranged with patience, born under pressure and held by time. It does not fight the dark. It does not demand quick answers. It forms slowly, and then it simply exists. And that is the gentle twist that can open the heart without waking it up. Some of the strongest things are not created by force, but by steadiness. Not by loud effort, but by quiet continuation. Not by constant shining, but by holding shape in the dark. If you are tired tonight, truly tired, you do not have to solve that tiredness with more effort. You can meet it with kindness. You can meet it the way the river meets a stone, by flowing around it, smoothing the edges, passing without judgment. Picture the earth beneath you again, just for a moment. The crust is a thin skin. Below it, the mantle moves like a slow sea. Heat rises and falls in loops that take ages. Continents drift, not in panic, but in patience. Mountains lift, then soften. Oceans open, then close. Everything changes, but change happens slowly enough that it becomes gentle. Somewhere deep in that slow sea, a diamond begins as a quiet idea, a structure waiting to be assembled. Atom by atom, the lattice holds. Over time, it becomes more stable, more itself, and one day, after a rare, swift lift and a long, quiet journey, it arrives in a human hand. That hand might be yours, in imagination, or it might belong to someone you love, someone who has lived long enough to understand that the most meaningful things are often small. A note left on the counter, a steady check-in, a hand on the shoulder, a warm light in a dark room. If you let the diamond rest in your mind, notice what it asks from you. Nothing. It does not ask you to decide. It does not ask you to fix. It simply invites you to witness. And witnessing can be restful. Witnessing says, I can look without grabbing. I can feel without spiraling. I can be here without rushing. Now, imagine a soft, cinematic sequence of the diamond's light. It catches the moon for a second, then releases it. It catches a lamp for a second, then releases it. Light enters, wanders, returns, and fades. This is how the night wants to work with you. Receive, soften, release. If you have been holding on to the day, you can release it in pieces, not all at once, one small piece at a time. The unfinished sentence, the worry about money, the tension in a conversation, the pressure to be everything to everyone. Let each one be a small glow that fades, not because it doesn't matter, but because it can wait. Some people fall asleep quickly, others take longer. Both are normal. The body has its own pace. Tonight, you do not need to compete with sleep. You can simply lean toward it, the way grass leans toward water. If a thought comes, let it come like a cloud. If it stays, let it stay without fighting. If it moves on, let it move on. Your job is not to control the sky, only to rest beneath it. And here is another soft discovery, almost like a whisper. Even in the deep earth, where there is no sunlight, there is still a kind of movement that resembles cycles. Heat rises, cools, sinks, rises again. Water hides in minerals, travels slowly, appears elsewhere. The planet is not frozen, it is not stuck. It is always, quietly, circulating. That can be a comfort for anyone who feels stuck, because it means that stillness is not the same as stagnation. You can be resting and still changing. You can be quiet and still healing. You can be in the dark and still forming. If you want to place a gentle intention in your night, you might choose something simple. I will let tomorrow be tomorrow. Or, I will do one thing at a time. Or, I will be kind to my nervous system. You don't have to repeat it. You can just let the feeling of it settle, like sand sinking to the riverbed. Now, as we move toward the end of this long journey, the story becomes less about diamonds and more about permission. Permission to be slow, permission to be unfinished, permission to be soft. Adults often carry invisible weights, the weight of being reliable, the weight of being needed, the weight of not wanting to disappoint. Those weights can keep the mind awake. Tonight, imagine setting them down the way you set down a bag when you finally get home. Not thrown, just placed. The floor can hold them. The earth can hold you, too. Not romantically, not magically, but practically, in the way gravity holds everything without asking for thanks. You are supported, even when you stop trying. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. A night drive, a river, a museum, a quiet moment with someone you miss. And if you don't want to share, that's okay. You can keep your memory private, like a small light inside your own pocket. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark, and every listener, wherever they are, is part of this quiet circle. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. One word is enough. Breathing, safe, quiet, or simply, good night. And don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel for more peaceful nighttime journeys, more slow science, more deep time, more soft places to land when the world has been too bright. Now, let the final image of this part arrive. The river continues, but you no longer need to watch it. The stars continue, but you no longer need to name them. The diamond rests, but you no longer need to hold it. Everything can continue without your effort. Your eyelids may feel heavier now. Let them. Your breathing may feel slower now. Let it. Your thoughts may be fading into a gentle blur. Let them blur, because the night is doing its work, quietly, patiently, like the earth. And in the next and final part, we will close the story like a soft door. We will leave you with one small, warm truth to carry into sleep. And then, we will let silence finish what words began. Let's add another gentle scene, like a quiet bridge between waking and dreaming. Imagine your bedroom, or wherever you are listening, as a small observatory, not a place of instruments and work, but a place of seeing. The ceiling is dark, the corners are soft, the air is steady, and your body, resting there, becomes the main telescope, turning inward to notice simple things: the rise of the chest, the warmth under a blanket, the quiet pulse in the wrists. If you live in a busy world, your senses have been asked to do too much, pulled toward notifications, deadlines, voices, traffic, bright screens. Tonight, you can let your senses retire. You can let them step off duty. You can let them fold themselves like umbrellas after rain. Outside, even in a city, there are small islands of calm. A tree that stands still under a streetlight. A window where someone's kitchen light has just turned off. A thin slice of moon between buildings. These are not dramatic things, but they are real, and they are enough to remind the nervous system that softness exists. Sometimes, people worry that thinking about deep time will make them feel small in a lonely way. But it doesn't have to. Deep time can make you feel held, like being a child again, wrapped in a blanket, while adults talk quietly in another room. You are not responsible for the whole world. You are simply part of it. That can be a relief. So let the diamond's patience become your permission slip. The earth did not demand that it become perfect overnight. The earth allowed it to take its time. You can allow yourself the same grace. You can take your time becoming the person you are becoming. You can take your time healing. You can take your time learning to rest. If your mind begins to drift into tomorrow, you can guide it back gently with an image. Picture a single drop of water falling into the river. It lands, makes one small circle, and then the circle fades. That is how thoughts can be tonight. They arrive, they ripple, they dissolve. Or picture a single star reflected on the river's surface. The water moves, the reflection trembles, and still the star remains above. Your thoughts may tremble, but you remain too, quietly, steadily, present. And if sleep comes in waves, let it. A first wave, heavy eyelids. A second wave, softening shoulders. A third wave, the mind losing its grip on words. You don't have to ride the waves. You can simply float. Let the night be gentle with you, again and again. Now we come to the final page of the night. Not a sharp ending, not a loud goodbye, just the gentle closing of a door that was never slammed in the first place. If you are still awake, you have done nothing wrong. If you are half asleep, drifting in and out, that is perfect. This story was never meant to be a test. It was meant to be a soft place to land. So let the images return one last time, like a slow montage fading into darkness. A diamond forming deep in the mantle, carbon arranging itself patiently, atom by atom, in a world without sunlight. A rare lift upward, the Earth's freight elevator of stone, carrying a hidden traveler quickly enough to preserve its shape. A long, quiet, waiting river gravel, moonlit water, the slow polishing of time. A human hand, curious but not greedy, lifting a small stone, turning it gently, noticing a faint answer of light. A dim museum at night, glass cases glowing softly. Time gathered in quiet rooms, the diamond resting like a witness. And then, the afterglow light held for a moment and released slowly, like the day leaving your body in gentle stages. Tonight, you have walked through deep time without leaving your bed. You have followed a small traveling star made of carbon. You have widened your inner room until urgency had less space to shout. And even if your worries still exist, They have softened at the edges, just enough to let rest feel possible. Now, let's gather the quiet lesson. Simple, warm, and human. The most enduring things often form in silence. Not everything that matters needs to be loud. Not everything that matters needs to be fast. Some of the strongest structures are built in the dark, over time, with patience. And that can be true for you, too. You do not have to fix your whole life tonight. You do not have to solve tomorrow in advance. You do not have to hold yourself to impossible brightness. You are allowed to dim. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to rest. If there is one thing you can carry gently into sleep, let it be this. Even while you sleep, the earth continues its slow work. Rivers keep smoothing stones. The mantle keeps moving like a quiet ocean. Time keeps widening, not to scare you, but to hold you. You do not have to supervise the world. You can let go. And now, as promised, a gentle closing for community, soft as a whisper with no pressure. Before you fully drift off, remember to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. A night sky, a river, a museum, a quiet moment when you felt safe. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. And if this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. Just a word or a short sentence, like a note you place beside your bed. I can rest now. I did enough. Tomorrow can wait. Now, let the story dissolve into the simplest sensations. Feel the weight of your body being held by your bed, your couch, your pillow. Feel how the surface beneath you does not ask anything from you, it simply supports you. Notice your breath, not to control it, only to witness it, in and out, like a tide that does not rush. If there is tension anywhere, you can let it soften by a fraction. A small release is enough. A small loosening is enough. And as your mind begins to drift, let the last image be the quietest of all. A diamond, small and still, resting in darkness, holding a final trace of light, and then letting it go. Good night.